Okay, I'm going to lay out what the fuck is happening right now because the cognitive dissonance is insane. Before I start this might be a little bit longer, so hit the 2x. But I grew up in the white evangelical church, finally fucking left, but was a worship leader, was a youth leader at one point, and I can tell you exactly why shit is going down the way it is. Two separate realities are happening right now. There's one reality where those of us with critical thinking, understanding of how systems work, racism, bigotry, all that shit, that's the reality that we're rooted in. That's what's actually happening. The other reality that has been created for white evangelical Christians is what they're stuck in. So as a Christian, you learn about the Old Testament, the New Testament. In the Old Testament, God was violent as fuck, but it gets normalized in a way to you because it was a justified violence. That, we're taking cities for God. These cities were evil, so kill every man, woman, and child. Like, that shit's actually in the Old Testament. Then you fast forward to the New Testament, and you have this idea of Jesus, right? Living the perfect life. The Bible talks about there's no greater sacrifice than laying your life down for your fellow man. Put a pin in that. All throughout the Bible, and reinforced in Scripture, they talk about how imperfect people are used to spread the gospel of Christ. So that's why people like Trump, like Charlie Kirk, their words and actions don't fucking matter to white evangelical Christians as long as it's presented as the bigger picture under the umbrella of white evangelical Christianity, white supremacy, white nationalism. And so simultaneously, the Bible also victimizes Christians. You will be hated for standing up for Christ, right? Talk about that in the New Testament. And you can see this all throughout history, the way the Bible has been used to justify some of the most heinous shit in this country, specifically in America, because it's always within the white people's perception of the greater good. Really, it's just colonial violence towards fucking everybody. But when you as a white person, as a white evangelical Christian, can be both the leader of moral and ethical truth and simultaneously be the victim of anybody that doesn't believe like you do, and package it under this idea of unconditional love while simultaneously telling people they'll go to hell if they don't believe the same thing you do. You create a narcissistic cycle, right? So then I can, as a white evangelical Christian, get away with any bullshit as long as I ask for forgiveness. And the greatest sin, unforgivable sin, is denouncing Christ, right? Everything else, 10 Commandments, they don't really give a fuck about that. They want to put it up in school, but you see white evangelical Christians, white supremacists carry out violence all the fucking time, but it's justified because I can't see other people as human in their full humanity if they do not align with what I stand on, with my beliefs. The Bible talks about there's only one way into heaven, and that's through Jesus Christ. And so when we have people, again, like Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk, if they are preaching this or throwing this shit out there, sticking it to the wall, Christians are going to eat that shit up. And then the clicks in their brain that these men, now mind you, in a Christianity, it goes Jesus, men, everybody else underneath. So when you have these white evangelical men perpetuating these narratives, perpetuating this bigotry, it reinforces their beliefs, reinforces their victimization, reinforces that they will be oppressed because they're standing up for morality and ethics. So it feeds into the cycle of white supremacy, right? There's only one right way. Worship the written word, the Bible. Like the list, you can tie it all together in the list of the core tenets of white supremacy. And so they operate in this different reality that they have created for themselves, where they can carry out and speak out any type of violence, support it, repent for it, move on with their lives, while simultaneously be the victim if anyone holds them accountable for the fucked up shit that they do. And if you are trapped inside the cult of white evangelical Christianity, they make it feel like every single thing that is not the same as you is a threat to your existence. So again, going back to the New Testament where it talks about, the greatest sacrifice a man could do is lay his life down for his fellow people. You have now martyred, like Charlie Kirk. Doesn't matter how fucking racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, ageist, the list goes on. If he was still standing for truth or pushing the gospel of Christ, then it's okay to them because God uses imperfect people. And so when the communities that have been actively harmed by the rhetoric and narratives that come out of the far right say, hey, that shit is hurtful to us. This creates violence towards us, and we don't appreciate it. Even if that's all that's said, then all of a sudden, white evangelical Christians look at that and they equate it to hate for the way that they navigate life. That's why they are overreacting, because they will hold humanity only for white people and truly only for white evangelical Christian men. And so when something happens to a godlike figure, they view it as an attack on their entire identity. And when you have an identity that is strictly based in hatred and bigotry, knowing you could lose your life, will literally turn white people fucking feral. And that's what's happening right now. They can't see humanity and all these other, that's why we lay all this shit out with all the other atrocities, Palestine, Congo, Sudan, black indigenous people of color being violently hurt by the government, like dude, it's so long, but it doesn't apply to them. But now the one person that looks like them, that pushed all their fucking harmful narratives that they could hide behind, is gone. The mask is gone. And when they chose to openly mourn this man, they unintentionally told everybody that they are also fucking white supremacists. And so a lot of white people are fighting themselves in the fucking mirror right now. And they cannot stand to look at ourselves as a collective in the face.
What's up, people of the internet? Welcome back to this YouTube channel. My name is Dev KE and this is Filtered Black. So on our today's episode, as you've seen from the prelude, more and more white people are coming out to condemn the injustices that are being done by the white people against the black community. And it excites me when some of these white folks are now openly coming out to condemn their fellows who are doing wrong things to the black community, and they are trying to sort of stand out and represent the black community. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm inviting you to watch with me these few clips and then see what we have.
What caused me, a former card-carrying racist, to change my perspective and see the world like I do now? I knew this question was coming. It's been asked me a lot of times, and I didn't know how I wanted to verbalize it. You know, I dated a girl with biracial kids years ago that I adored and loved. You spend 23-1 with a person of color in a prison cell. You get to know them really well. You have to get along. You ask questions. You listen. You learn. I mean, I'd love to tell you it's all these experiences, but being transparent, truth be told, I didn't have the strength and courage to do this on my own. I lacked that to have enough to fight this disease is the best way to say it. So I give absolute credit to God because he set me on this path. I realize I'm called to serve, and other people by that I mean, and he pulled back the curtain. And I've always been the type of man, once I know something or I see something, I can't unsee it or unknow it. Now, I might have stayed willfully ignorant to some things because I know how the man I am. Once I know it, it's going to change me. So I might have purposely ignored things. I'll admit that. But once I really delved into this, and it basically got down to me, I solved problems by looking at it and then immediately stepping 180 degrees into the other side of the equation and looking at it. So I asked myself two easy questions, and have you ever never met anybody who can answer them? The first one I asked myself, what did Black America or people of color ever do to me? Now, I'm not talking about having a beef with another human being as a person of color. I'm talking about as a whole, as a community. Thought long and hard about it. Couldn't answer it. And then I asked myself, what has the shield of racism, this powerful kryptonite against black people, how has it protected me? It hasn't. It never will. My racism is a disease of the heart and mind. And one of the hardest parts about this journey is you're going to have a identity crisis or crisis of character, because you have to admit that your character is flawed, it's corrupt, part of it, and that you're wrong, and you've been taught wrong, and you've believed wrong, and you were just fundamentally wrong. And that is hard for a lot of people's egos. But I'm going to tell you, when you come on the other side of this and you get past this and you learn to forgive yourself for thinking this way about people you don't even know, because you're going to have to do that. But once you do, the world is so beautiful. The colors are brighter. The sound is more melodious. Things taste better. You have a different perspective. It's healthier. It's hard. It's something I will fight subconscious bias for the rest of my life. But it's a fight I'm now prepared for. Hope that answers your question. Have a great evening. Why I stopped being a racist, part 1. I've been asked probably well over 1,000 times in the comments and messages why I chose to confront my own racism and my prejudice ideology. So I thought I'd just have an honest conversation with you and break it down over a few parts and let you see into the mind of someone like me, the way I grew up, and the man I'm becoming. Now here's the crazy thing. I've only ever known one racist in my life for sure, and that's me, because I can't speak into the hearts and minds of another human being and what they think and feel. That's not fair, and that's prejudicial of me. So I'm the only one I've ever known, so I feel I can speak with authority about this. I'm not calling out other people who are. This is simply about my evolution and the things I confronted and some of the difficulties and some of the beautiful parts of this. This is not an easy thing for me to do. This is kind of laying my soul bare. So if you would, let me know if this is something you want me to continue in the comments, please, because it's going to take a lot for me to invest emotionally to be open about this. Now, why is it I grew up with so much prejudice and bias and discrimination in my life? Well, I grew up in a small town in Arkansas, and I am Arkansas proud. Let me just say that right off the top. But I grew up with people who taught me these things, and it was instilled in me. I mean, it was just reinforced over and over. And then for the most part, I lived in an echo chamber of other people who thought the same thing. So I didn't know it was possible to think any other way. I was raised Christian. I cannot explain to you why my faith in God, my morality, and my racism took so long to cross paths. I can't explain it, but it probably took about 40 years to figure that out. There's a whole series of events in my life, I guess, ultimately that led up to this. And prison was probably one of the biggest catalysts, because when you're on 23-1 lockdown with someone of a different color from you in the same cell, you shut your mouth and you listen. You ask questions. And I had so many different cellmates from different countries, from different races and heritages. And it just really opened my mind. And sitting in prison, I had a lot of time to think. And I had some old timers tell me, I need to do my time. Don't let my time do me. And those are good words of advice. But I started digging deep into myself and my flaws, and because I was probably the biggest asshole I knew at that time, and I wasn't proud of that at all. And I knew I needed to change if I wanted to live a productive and healthy life and just be somebody likable. I just couldn't see the world for the way it really was. And that breaks my heart that it took me so long to see it. But the beauty that is born from this change in me, or this growth, is just crazy. God is amazing. So if you want me to continue this, let me know and I'll do a part 2.
Hi, I'm Kylie, and here are the top 5 ways that hatred is passed on in white families. This is definitely a topic that not a lot of white people like to talk about because they prefer to stay race neutral or at least not air their dirty laundry in public, but I do have some things that I want to say. The first way that white people pass on hatred to their kids is literally at the dinner table. I can't even tell you how many times I'd be at another white person's house growing up, and their mom or dad would say something racist and look to their kid like they made a joke and wait for the kid to react. So in that way, the racist remark serves almost as a point of bonding between the parent and the child. The second way that it's passed on is in sports, especially if a white family or a white team is playing against a team that is primarily people of color. White people will say racist things. Did you see that defender? She was really aggressive, and other microaggressions that get passed on to the child. The third way is by discouraging their children from being friends with people of color because of certain innate qualities that they may have. Number 4, moving their kids to an all-white suburb. Number 5, praising celebrities and politicians that are racist.
All those folks who say it's not racist to be proud to be white. Yeah, it is. It's not racist to be proud to be English or Irish or Italian or Eastern European. Those are places. Those are cultures. They're not a skin color. So when you say I'm a proud Irish American, or when you say I'm proud to be from Scotland, that's great. That's not racist. But when you say I'm proud to be white, you're a fucking racist. So if you wish to be proud of your culture, you can absolutely be proud of your culture, but not proud to be white. Now, I will make the caveat that if the culture that you're proud of is the seceded Southern United States, the Confederate States of America, yeah, that's racist too. If you're holding on to the most racist ideology in the last 200 years, yeah, you're a racist.
So if you spend any time on X or any social media, you've probably seen this idea of a civil war. Is America going to be in a civil war? In some cases, people calling for a civil war. Especially after the tragic shooting of Charlie Kirk, you would see many figures, even Elon Musk, saying, almost invoking a war. I want to discuss that because this isn't a new phenomenon. I can remember when I got elected, actually, back in 2010, somebody coming up to me and asking me if I was preparing for the upcoming Civil War. In fact, probably since the Civil War, people have always said we're on the edge of it. But I want to talk, who's doing this? First off, I think most of the people that push this idea of civil war are people that have never served, that have never seen combat. But more importantly, I think they're people that are searching in their life for meaning. And this idea of civil war to them feels like you're belonging to a side and you're going to go out and fight for those values. But I want to talk about what a civil war really entails. So a significant number of people that I see calling for a civil war, predicting one, I don't think would last very long. Just because Walgreens would run out of their insulin or whatever heart medicine they need, or medicine for their blood to keep their blood thin. In fact, that's the whole point. The creature comforts we rely on today will not be here in the case of a civil war. So I want to discuss some of those. Number 1, I already mentioned, your medicines. There's not going to be anybody working at the penicillin factory. So what happens when you get an infection, a sinus infection, say? What is that? Well, you probably won't survive it. What happens when, I don't know, let's say you want to turn on the lights? Do you think the people will be working at the electric company? Do you think the water folks will go to work? Do you think they're going to pick up trash anywhere? Think about this. Anytime, when you talk about a civil war, the reality is people have to go to work.
Hey, white men, what culture do you identify as? Do you even care? That's the problem. White people have turned our politics into identity politics because white men do not want to identify themselves as the culture. They don't. Why would they? Because then they would be scrutinized and subjected to all of the different minority stuff that's happening around the country with culture. White male culture is prevalent and it is dominant in our society, and all of these people are ignoring it. They think that their identity is the norm. They think their identity is the standard. They think their identity is American. It's not. It's just white male culture. It's in a box. We put them in that box. They put themselves in that box, but we keep them in that box and we remind them of who they are. Just a bunch of white men. That's it.
Fear of open conflict is a tenet of white supremacy culture. Think of how many times you've been at the dinner table with your family or in a work setting and they've told you not to talk about a certain topic because it's impolite. Most notably when it comes to politics or human rights issues such as race. How many times have you been in a setting where you know that something said or done was wrong, however you did nothing to change the circumstances? White supremacy and the fear of open conflict is so ingrained in our society that we even have a word for it. The bystander effect. When we're in a group, it's easier for us to assume that someone else will step up and do something, so we don't do anything ourselves. This is a problem when everyone assumes that everyone else will act, and no one actually does. And I'll tell you right now that the wealthiest people in this country are afraid of the working class. How many of you have personally met a multi-millionaire or a billionaire? They avoid us like the plague. They control our politicians to keep us divided. They inflate the costs of our goods to keep us poor, and they make sure that the education funding goes to the more well-to-do neighborhoods, leaving the American people broke and ignorant. The average reading level of Americans right now is 6th grade, and the federal poverty line for a single person working a full-time job is $7.60. The federal minimum wage is $7.25. That doesn't add up to me. If you are afraid of open conflict, I encourage you to start looking for some. Conflict does not have to be a bad thing. When there is conflict, there is growth. So go out there and break the status quo and learn up.
So now, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here right at the end, as promised, and I have a few things that I've noted from the video. Number one is that America has always been known as that moral country, that what they do is normally right morally, and what they do normally is beneficial to any other country in the world. But that is not the case from what has been happening in the recent months and the years. There has been a lot of atrocities and injustices that have been done to the Black community, especially when they fail to align themselves with the societal norms of the white community. They disagree ideologically with the white community. There has been some, thoughts that if you do not align with them, then you are cancelled, and maybe you are exposed, and now you go through racism, insults, and all that. And it's been happening, and we've been seeing that throughout the internet. But now the interesting part is that these white folks are now coming out openly to, condemn their fellow white Americans for their injustices, for their mediocrity, for their racism, and all that they commit towards the Black community. And that is actually a win. But now it's some good progress, and we would love to see more of these people coming out to, condemn each other, put each other in check, so that we all do the right thing. And then we can find a way to live harmoniously and, with love towards each other. So, yeah, I think that's some good progress towards the end of racism and equality. And I think it's heading towards some good direction. And yeah, that is just my contribution towards the few clips. You can tell me what you think. Share with me down below in the comment section. And also, if you are coming across this channel for the first time, please take a minute to subscribe, watch, and share with your friends and family, so that I get motivation to continue doing more videos like this. And those who've been watching, liking my videos, sharing with your families and friends, may have been seeing that, and I'm truly grateful. Also, those who've been supporting me through the Buy Me Coffee link in the description, thank you so much. And yeah, let's see how far we can go with the awakening of the African spirit and preaching more about the Black unity and the Black community as a whole. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.